A very good morning to all of you and welcome to day 2 of IDR 2024. As we start the proceedings today, it was my great pleasure to introduce our vision speaker, Sarita Sundar, a distinguished designer and design historian whose work seamlessly bridges India's rich cultural heritage with contemporary design discourse. With 35 years of expertise in brand design and strategy, Sarita brings a unique perspective through her consultancy Hano, where she specializes in heritage interpretation and design research. Her groundbreaking publication, From the Frugal to the Ornate, Stories of the Seat in India, exemplifies her talent for uncovering fascinating narratives in everyday objects, challenging traditional design historiography. A Fulbright Fellow and alumna of both the National Institute of Design and the University of Leicester, Sarita's work consistently illuminates the intersection of vernacular design, cultural practices, and modern sensibilities. With a round of applause, please join me in welcoming Sarita Sundar, our vision speaker today.
Thank you very much, both the Department of Integrated Design and Research, as well as a personal thanks to Sumantri for inviting me. She's been threatening to call me over for a very long time, and it never did happen. I'm very, very grateful to be here and share what I can with all of you. I do think that your university's commitment to research is one that, as an initiative that needs to be repeatedly reiterated, even in the most well-established institutions of today. And the thing about being invited to give a vision speech is that one is made acutely aware of one's gray hair and wobbly knees and such like, and other parts of the body that I certainly don't want to draw your attention to. However, I have spent a good part of my youth and education in New Delhi, just to give you a background about me, and other parts of India. However, the last 35 years or so, I have been in Bangalore in South India. I'm traditionally from Kerala, as I was just telling architect Sagar as well. The image that you see on the screen, I'm sorry if it's so low-res, I couldn't get anything much better, is of the well-known dancer Chitrasena playing Ravana when his dance company performed in the pageant of Lanka on the independence of Sri Lanka. Now, Kerala, the state that I'm from in India, which is in the south part of India, has many things in common with Sri Lanka. We, like many of the Sri Lankans, also think of King Ravana as not quite the bad guy as my North Indian counterparts would think of. And interestingly, just yesterday, I bumped into a writer, Sunela Jayawardene, in a cafe yesterday, and she ended up talking about just this. So I was again reminded about this serendipity, which your land is, it's supposed to be called Serendip, right? Now, then again, the idiyappam or string hoppers is really just another name that we have. We call it the Noolappam by another name in Malayalam. So we have a lot more in common than, at least in the part of India that I'm from, right? Now, I've been a designer to a very large part of my career. I run Hano, where we interpret history for museums, archives, and heritage spaces. A good 25 years into my career, I really felt the need to reorient and find my own sort of pole star, so to speak. So I paused and went back to school and got to do a few sort of bits and bobs and things like that. And now, in some way or the other, I'm known as a cultural and a design historian. while still being a practicing designer. My interest, however, has always been to blend research and practice and put it to use, to find out how the past and the present really could be brought together to create exciting work. Today, rather than speak too much about my projects in detail, I would like to speak a little bit about the points of inflection. You know, the provocations that have in many ways challenged me. I will share with you a few guiding principles, a few pole stars, so to speak, that I have found useful to follow. So a pole star or a dhruva star, a tara, symbolizes a guiding principle in Eastern philosophy. But it's also, in a sense, emblematic of determination and steadfastness, you know, at times when everything else is in some way spinning and doesn't make sense. In this talk, I will take the assistance of a few people and objects that are part of our common histories, who have in some way influenced me, and whose ideas have also sent ripples and waves, you know, far beyond this tiny stretch of sea that separates our countries. Some of these people you may know, some not. I myself was very, very pleasantly surprised to see how many of these people and objects are connected in so many different ways. While I may share some of my learnings over the years, I do believe that we all stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm keenly aware that what I do know is very, very tiny compared to all the things that I should know, and I have borrowed this quote from Anand Kentish Kumaraswamy, one of the key cultural thinkers from Sri Lanka from the early part of last century. You can see this stamp that was issued in his honor by the Indian government, Department of Posts. I will speak a little bit more detail about Kumaraswamy during this talk. The book that the student who introduced me is called From the Frugal to the Ornate. It's a book that is a collection of stories of the seat in India. So many people have asked me, why have I focused an entire book on studying the seat? For me, really, it is because sometimes the most ordinary of objects help reveal the most interesting of curiosities. Some of you might know of this little painting that I've shown on the side, Sissi Nespa Yun Shes, or, well, that's the take that I have of René Magritte's painting of a pipe, and it's translated as "This is not a chair." It's a playful reminder that the very, very ordinary and familiar seat often serves a function beyond seating and can be a potent symbol of power dynamics, gender roles, racial, religious, and class hierarchies. It has deep historical and cultural implications. For me, really, it was a convenient and everyday object that everyone, from a king to a commoner, sits on, and it helped me unravel and pack cultural history. We also, as part of the project, at the end of my organization, along with the designer Georgie Paul, we designed a website for the project, so do have a look at it or follow the QR code, and you'll get to see and explore individual seats that you can look at. Of course, the book is slightly different from the website, but it was a way of talking about these interconnections that I feel are very, very important to see in our work. The way in which we can connect ideas and people together. So, as I said, I'm going to talk to you about a few people and objects that have in some way had meaning for me. Chairs, of course, have been symbolic of authority and privilege, and during the colonial era, the British actually believed that the chair to be a herald of modernity and culture, civility even. They wrote of how traditional Indian floor seating and postures were really barbaric and animalistic. There are quotes that actually say that. There was even a small piece of paper called the Kursi Nashin, which was given to people that the British thought were entitled a chair when visiting colonial officials. Now, Mahatma Gandhi, his adoption of a sort of a form of modern minimalism through a lifestyle of simple living, renouncement of luxury and dignity in labor, was really informed by the ideas of Victorian social reformer and art critic John Ruskin. So when Gandhi's choice of, his working space, and of course his switch to traditional attire and things like that, were really, while it had spiritual and philosophical underpinnings, it was also a very, very deliberate political tactic. And if Gandhi's ideologies, in a sense, were inspired by, helping the repressed around the world, it actually eventually did lead to an unraveling of the empire. It was seen as a decolonial act. Now, similar to Gandhi, but a few decades later, or earlier rather, Rabindranath Tagore, the social reformer, poet, and Nobel Prize winner, made many efforts towards social and rural upliftment. He believed that the long years of colonization had distanced Indians from traditional visual culture. And the schools that he set up in Shantiniketan in Bengal emphasized principles of humanism, harmony, and nature. Integrating it all together, integrating arts with crafts as well as Western and Eastern sort of modes of education. Scholars refer to his version of modern thought as contextual modernism or regional modernism, very, very similar to what much later Minette de Silva from Sri Lanka initiated. And it was very, very separate from this very universalizing, very, very singular way of looking at international form of modernism. So modernism for him really was not about looking alike, which was what international modernism was saying. It was really about freedom of mind, freedom from insular histories. It was working, and he really was working towards something that could be referred to as cosmopolitan local. And for me, at least, the many things that Tagore said, I find of particular significance, and I feel that might be resonating with all of you. He said that I strongly urge artists to deny their obligation to produce something that can be labeled as Indian art. Sort of don't force something to look like Indian art using motifs and such, according to some old world mannerism. And I'll sort of continue and tell you what I mean by that, at least what meaning it gave me. So I'm going to now cut away to very, very contemporary times, and I'm speaking about the work of a designer who's, I believe his work, challenges the obligation to produce something that is Indian. He doesn't feel the need to do that, but while keeping to the principles of humanism, harmony with nature. His name is Sandeep Sangaru, and any of you who are industrial designers, I will recommend that you do have a look at his work. I do believe he's one of the best designers we have in India today. I'm showing alongside, this quote, which is from the 16th century, of a description of how lacquer work was done. And this is by Linschoten, a Dutch traveler. My colleague Aditi will remember this quote from an exhibition that we had done. But what I found particularly interesting is that the description that he has used, that is in the 16th century, is very much the same. It actually describes what is done today also. The lacquer is, the dry rushes, which is the grass, is brushed onto the wood, and it makes the lacquer work shineth like glass. Now, why do I put these two things together? Sandeep Sangaru and his team of craftsmen had not referred to anything like a written description on lacquer. But all these techniques are actually followed through, passed down orally. And this chair, the flame-back chair, seen in the picture, it incorporates the craft of wood lacquer work. It's made in South India. The details of the chair, however, are a sharp departure from what is traditionally found. He's taken the technique but created a completely different form. He's using something like an inexpensive wood. So, Anand Kentish Kumaraswamy, just so that I can read the room, how many here below the age of 30 know of him? Below the age of 30. I can see 3 hands, 4 hands, 5 hands. 6 hands, below 30, 8 hands, okay. How many above the age of 30 know a little bit more than about him? A few more, okay. So kind of helps prove my point though. So, Anand Kentish Kumaraswamy's life was full of ambiguities. He was formed by a host of influences whose variety is actually reflected in his very name, coming from his mixed parentage. Ananda, which is Indian or Sri Lankan, Kentish, English, and Kumaraswamy, which is Tamil Sri Lankan. He was trained in England as a geologist. His books on art, including medieval Sinhalese art, the cover which you see here, are considered classics in a certain section of people. He set up bodies such as the Ceylon Social Reform Society, and in England, he set up the Indian Society. He was key, and this I came to know only recently, in actually getting Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, introduced to the West, and eventually getting nominated, and of course the winning of the prize was out of his hands, but eventually getting nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature. He formed close relationships with the Tagore family, and was an active participant in the Indian freedom struggle. He wrote a series of essays on national idealism. He spoke publicly against the imprisonment of Gandhiji and the partition of Bengal. As I was saying, I was very curious to know if today's artists and designers and architects, both in Sri Lanka and India, whether they take his work seriously. I'm not sort of saying this as a negative. I also came to know of his work much recently, and I'm quite fascinated that there is this body of work which I think has a lot of meaning even today, 100 years from back. So Gandhi, Kumaraswamy's, and Tagore's interventions came at a crucial point in history when attitude towards, the West, the West's attitude towards India and Asian culture was very, very contemptuous. So products produced by the East had been negated, and they were relegated to the sidelines as something that was second-rate and inferior. Sometimes they said it was too ornate, there's even a word that's been used, the madness of a Hindu mind and things like that. Now, Kumaraswamy was connected to the arts and crafts movement, which was started in England by people like William Blake, William Morris, and John Ruskin, who were all very, very critical of the ugliest things that were happening due to the dehumanizing aspects of industrial revolution. They believed that industrialization, in a sense, disfigured the human spirit, and they protested against the conditions under which the workers were working, or going through their daily life. It's of interest to note that this particular book was actually printed at the William Morris Press in England, and it kind of, that little centerpiece that you see, it illustrates the sort of coming together of Indian or Western and Eastern elements in a sense. Now, what is also interesting is that Kumaraswamy was one of the many objectors to the First World War. And this particular writer, Roland Romain, he put out this thing called the Declaration of the Independence of Mind. And amongst various things, I'll tell you what it says, but it was signed by 100 luminaries, of which there was Albert Einstein, Hermann Hesse, and the only Eastern signatories were actually Rabindranath Tagore and Anand Kumaraswamy. Now, if you see, and that's where I've taken the title of my talk, it's our duty is to be a center of stability, to point out the pole star amid the whirlwind of passions in the night. And the other thing that he says, which I think is critical, is that, truth that is free, frontierless, limitless, truth that knows not of the prejudices of race or caste. Now, Kumaraswamy has written about this, well, it's been, even if it's been 100 years since the declaration, in the current climate that we have today, which is dominated by divisions, it's worth really reminding ourselves of the wisdom of this particular manifesto, declaring the need to honor this idea of, not being restricted by prejudices of race or caste. And I share with you again 2 practical examples. The only thing I can think of always is chairs, so I'm using these as examples. One is of what's called the Kashmir Chudi chair, again designed by Sandeep Sangaru. It brings in a lot of things together. One, the craftsmanship that was traditional to Kashmir, work on walnut wood. And then 2, it actually has mechanized systems, so the legs are machined and things like that. It has craftsmen from all, races, religions and stuff, It's a combination, his work is a collaboration between him and Abdul Aziz and other people. And on the right you see of another designer, a very young designer from India, whose name is Ranjan Bodoloi, who works in Assam, which is close to Bengal. And he works with Imam Ali using brass work, and this brass work was traditionally used for actually making votive offerings for temples. Imam Ali, a Muslim craftsman, makes brass work for temples. What Ranjan did was he worked with these craftsmen, with the craftsmen on Imam Ali, and created a completely different type of language, breaking both barriers of what the craft can do, but also working with the craftsmen to create this. It's a Red Dot winner, this award-winning stool called the Pitaloy stool. The other thing that I found that Kumaraswamy wrote about, which I find of great interest, is he wrote about the interesting and very difficult distinctions that can be drawn between a tool and a machine. And just today, while we were coming to the university, we were having a conversation in the car. Aditi and Sumantri, we were talking about the use of AI and artificial intelligence, and I thought, you know, it's very, very relevant that we look at what he talks about. What is the difference between a tool and a machine? He speaks, of course, in the context of craftspeople, even though I think we share the same dilemmas today, as AI is, you know, rearing its head in so many different spheres. He speaks of the textile loom as a tool. It's useful to hold warp and threads together, for the pile to be woven together by the craftsman's fingers. But the power loom is a machine. While it does the essential work, it also imposes limitations on the spontaneity and freedom of the design and on the intelligence of the worker. The chisel is a tool, but the mechanical carver is a machine. Its purpose, not to rob the craftsman of that part of labor, which is his very craft, but to save him from the heaviest and least interesting work. So saying that the tool should really only do that. It should only take away the most difficult and laborious part of work, but allow the craftsman to continue his creative work. And to my mind, this embroidered sea chair by Rushat Shroff, a designer based in Bombay, does a bit of that. So he actually creates these patterns using the computer, they're digitized. The artwork itself is handcrafted by craftsmen who have a traditional understanding of this skill. I can't be on stage and not talk about her, right? I don't think I need to see a raise of hands out here, but maybe I will. How many people know a lot about Minette's life? Architecture students, a lot more. Under 30s? A few less, okay. So she is considered Sri Lanka's first modern architect. In 1945, after working and studying in Mumbai, Minette co-founded, along with the writer Mulkraj Anand and others, the Modern Architectural Research Group, which still publishes the Marg magazine, which talks about modern art, design, and architecture. As you can see, she had very, very strong ties with the famous modernist architect Le Corbusier and many other international creatives, such as Pablo Picasso, the figure on the left. And yet she actually navigated a course which was far away from international modernism in order to develop a regional approach which would take into account local tradition, climate, topology, and technologies, and is considered a pioneer of modern regionalism, very much similar to what Tagore was trying to do a good maybe 60 years before at Shantiniketan. And here I'm just sort of speaking a little bit about some of her projects. When I showed this image, when I discovered it and showed it to Dr. Rachel Lee, my collaborator on the planter's chair, she was like, oh my God, all my dreams come to Minette and the planter's chair in one frame. But why have I brought this out? Because it sort of talks a little bit about what the owner of this house says, you know. He talks about how there's a lovely play of light and shade, and how his mother was delighted by the light reflections. And even today, when we were living, we've been staying in a homestay in Colombo, and I looked out of the bathroom window, and there were these images of the leaves against the window. And you know, sometimes in urban life, at least in places like Bangalore and Delhi, you'd miss that. You don't see a little bit of the nature coming into the domestic spaces. But also, I think, the complicated tools and heavy machinery that is needed to create heavy concrete structures that dominate most of South Asian cities today really have no place in what she's talking about. Here, it's really a successful mix of art and nature, an architecture that's very, very conscious of natural materials and settings, as well as the human beings that actually build and whose lives are affected by it. Minette was a vital intellectual. She was an architectural historian, dipping into urban planning, design, craftsmanship, archiving, conservation, and teaching. She was reportedly one of only 2 women in the world at the time who actually had a practice under her name, and had really to conquer the distrust of various contractors, business people, government, as well as architectural patrons, who, until she came, had never really confronted a woman's presence in this field. And this quote is not her quote. It is a fictionalization of, it's a quote from a book called Plastic Emotions. And when I first saw it, I said, oh, she actually said that. It is a fictionalized quote, but however, to a large extent, I feel it is only really a mild exaggeration of what she must have faced in her day. So we go back now to my little graph of people and objects, and we have now many connections in place. Gandhi met Kumaraswamy in London. Kumaraswamy spoke against Gandhi's imprisonment. Kumaraswamy introduced Tagore to the West. Chitrasena, the dancer who I showed in the first slide, working with traditional Kandyan style, he aimed to create a new national art form. His influences came from Tagore, from Shantiniketan, Uday Shankar, another dancer from India, and the Kalamandalam artists in Kerala. Minette's ideas of regional modernism and Tagore's contextual modernism are just a faint hair apart. The Marg magazine, the first Indian magazine that critically examined art and design, had De Silva played a major role. All of them wanted to build an idea of an identity that was unique and separate from what was blowing in from the West. Sandeep and Rushat, the designers I spoke of, and of course Bordeaux Louis, used techniques from a good 800 years back, along with modern efficient technologies that ease the burden of a craftsman without taking away their creativity. Ranjan works at the grassroots with craftsmen across communities and geographies. Okay, so why am I telling you about these tales of people and objects? Because I believe in many ways they have challenged norms. They have stepped out of barriers put by society on gender, roles, or colonial impositions. They are creators with dignity, humanity, and respect for the earth and its people. Now you may choose to look at these people and objects, or you might find others, as I know now that there are some very interesting things in your immediate neighborhood of Moratuwa. You may choose to dance, to climb ladders, break ceilings, find beauty in the small and seemingly inconsequential. However, I do urge that as young or old contemporary creative practitioners, while we are precariously sort of positioned in this edge of this interconnected network that combines art, design, and technology, we must look at looking at creating work that does not only look at creating forms that are Indian or Sri Lankan or whichever part of the world you're in some sort of superficial sense, but at what we truly think is Sri Lankan or Indian or whichever community, and also what we would like it to be. And for me, at least, it means to retain the syncretic nature that makes our lands rich and diverse, that is to sort of bring in coming together of communities across, to not just try and save shapes and forms. The Paisley motif is used all over and you say, oh, it's Indian or whatever, and you put a lotus and you say it's Sri Lankan or Indian. But really try and save the relationships between communities and the social objects and networks that keep them alive. That's how I feel kind of strongly about. I'd like to end with this hip-hop music piece that has worked with diverse traditions and yet has evolved global design sensibilities. These artists have disrupted hierarchies of pop culture and high culture, combining references from both. I I'm told that some of you do know about this song. It's a blend of traditional Tamil folk song and rap. It released early in 2021 by Dee of Tamil Nadu and Aruvu, who's an Australian Sri Lankan singer. The deep-rooted meaning of the words in the album come from rural Tamil Nadu. They speak of the difficulties that Tamil plantation workers felt. However, the music itself can be read at multiple levels. It highlights the interdependence and mutual respect of other beings, both social, ecological, both small and big. There's even a little kambli puchi. I don't know what you call a kambli puchi here. Is it the same? Well, it's a little caterpillar. So, it's all that and more. So, oops. No, we have to go and watch this now. Can you put it on full screen and loud music?
Thank you very much, Sarita. We truly appreciate your time and expertise with us. Now I'd like to invite everyone to join us for a short tea break just outside the conference hall, and please join us again in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Video देना है? चलो ठीक है.
The story of JF&I Packaging dates to 1978, when it was founded by the late Dr. Neville Fernando. Initially specializing in offset printing and thereafter expanding into other verticals. JF&I, which was ably guided by Dr. Fernando and family, is now part of the Technomedics Group. Ensuring its stability and steady growth has been at the forefront of steering innovation in packaging solutions for a diverse range of industries, earning the well-deserved title of the most diversified printing and packaging company in South Asia. JF&I operates from 4 locations globally, namely Sri Lanka, the UAE, Kenya, and Bangladesh, to align with our customers' vertical integration, focusing on supply chain speed. JF&I also operates sales representative offices in the USA and Europe. With the revenue CAGR of 15% moving forward during the next few years, JF&I is looking to establishing its presence in India and Indonesia to further enhance its global footprint. Globally, JF&I converts approximately 48,000 metric tons of paper, board, and film annually. In keeping with our vision and mission to be a global leader in providing innovative, efficient, and sustainable packaging solutions, we continue to innovate both at scale and quality to deliver exceptional value to our customers, while proactively partnering with brands to achieve synergy in meeting their business requirements through a one-stop shop approach.
Check.
Our in-house design hub is a pivotal element in this journey, driving this company's operations with rapid prototyping and in-house testing at our state-of-the-art on-site facility. In visualizing the perfect solution for our customers, our design hub combines 3D modeling and calibrated digital printing. Our diverse
We are about to commence session 6 of IDR 2024. So this session is about economy and industries vernacular knowledge and practice. And to chair the session, I invite Dr. Ayesha Vikramasinghe, and as the co-chair, I invite Mr. Praneeth Pereira on stage.
Thanks, Adisha. We warmly welcome all of you to the session today, session number 6 and 7, also session number 8, on the theme Economy and Industries, Vernacular Knowledge and Practice, Design Across Technologies, Economy and Industries, Vernacular Knowledge and Practice. I'm Praneeth Pereira as the co-chair today for session number 6 and 7. I would like to introduce our chair to the session number 6 and 7, Dr. Ayesha Vikramasinghe. If I introduce her to all of you, Dr. Ayesha Vikramasinghe has been serving as a senior lecturer in fashion design and product development at the Department of Textile and Apparel Engineering, University of Moratuwa for nearly 18 years. She holds an impressive academic portfolio, including a Bachelor of Design with honors from the University of Moratuwa, a Masters of Arts in Fashion Technology from the London College of Fashion, University of the Arts, London, and a doctorate from the University of the Visual and Performing Arts. Her doctoral research focused on contextual studies of historical Sri Lankan female dress in relation to fashion and textiles. Her research interests span a diverse range of topics, including fashion and textile design and their applications, practice-led research in fashion and textiles, conceptual designing, craftsmanship in fashion and textile practices, circular fashion, and the evolution of Sri Lankan fashion movements. So I would like to invite Dr. Aisha Vikramasinghe to initiate the presentations.
Thank you, Praneeth. And again, I want to thank Dr. Sumatri for the invitation as the chair for the session. Yes, very good morning, you all. This is the 6th session, and the 7th session comes next. There are 4 presenters. I would like to ask the audience, because we're going to take the whole 4 presentations together, okay? There are no question time. But after 4 sessions, you have the time to ask the questions. So the audience, please make sure few questions for each presentation. So that is, I think, very good interaction with the presenters. If you are silenced, that means you are just not much concerned about their sessions. You want to listen, and please raise few questions from each presenter. After the 4 sessions, they will come here and interact with you all. So please listen and just write down few questions if you have. Then after all 4 sessions, you can just discuss with them. So that's for the audience. And I'm not taking much time. I would like to start. There are 4 presentations. Very first one. The theme is a comparative analysis of different adaptation methods of the Fibonacci sequence in creative pattern cutting. And the authors are Nonis PDMC and Veerasinghe WMAI. The presenter is Nonis PDMC. I think I'm correct. Yes, I cordially invite Mr. Nonis. The stage is for you. Please present. Good luck.
A very good morning to all of you. I'm Menura Nonis. I'm present my research, a title, A Comparative Analysis of Different Adaptation Method of Fibonacci Sequencing Creative Pattern Making. So moving on, my research focusing on using the mathematical concept, especially the Fibonacci sequence in creative pattern making. This improves the design look and open in newly possibilities beyond the traditional methods. So the main challenge is that the Fibonacci sequence is not widely used due to the complexity of the construction technique and lack of simply methods. It's mainly for contour fashion garment constructions. So this research aimed to bridge the gap between the bespoke fashion and the mass market productions by simplifying and scaling these technique using the work study analyzing matrix, and it shows how this method can be driven into innovative sustainability. So as a part of the research, I formulated the 3 research questions, and moving on with the research objectives. The research objectives are aligned with the research questions, evaluate the existing adaptation method of Fibonacci sequencing creative pattern making, and assess the efficiency using garment work study analyzing metrics, and recommended the scalability method and the mass production and the economical growth. So moving on to next, the literature review divided under the 4 sectors. So when it comes to the first one, what is actually pattern making? A pattern making is a fundamentals in the garment production, serve as a blueprint used to cut the fabric based on the measurements. So the main methods are drafting, draping, flat pattern making. So in the fashion, it contains the design with the production, ensure the efficiency, fabric use, and accurate the garment construction. It's drive sustainability and profitability in mass production and enable the style and the duplication of the reducing the cost by turning into design concept into the wearable garment. So the Fibonacci sequence, what is actually Fibonacci sequence? The Fibonacci sequence is introduced by the Leonardo Fibonacci in 13th century through the Liber Arabic book. Starting from 0 and 1, each number begins sum of 2 before it. So the Fibonacci learned the Hindu Arabic number system in the North Africa and used to solve the problem like the famous rabbit puzzle designs. So the Fibonacci sequences connect with the golden ratio, with the ratio between the numbers getting closer with value as a sequence process. So the golden ratio and the golden pentagon follow with the golden ratio and with side angle with perfect proportions. The logarithmic spiral or the growth spiral is linked with both Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio, showing the natural patterns like the shells and the galaxy. So in these sections, I will discuss the application of the Fibonacci sequence, design application when it comes to the Fibonacci sequence. So the first design is Izumiyaki. The Izumiyaki used a Fibonacci sequence in his collection, drawing the inspiration from the natural spiral and aligned with his design with the golden ratio or the golden pentagon. His design demonstrates how the mathematical concept can be inspired both creative and the functional pattern making in fashion design. So moving on to the second designer, Sino Sato. Sino Sato used a Fibonacci sequence in his TR pattern construction technique, making the technique combination with maths and the creativity. He's incorporated the spiral theodose or the logarithmic spiral into his designs, creative unique patterns by using the Fibonacci curve, which is known as a golden ratio. So finally, the third designer is Andrea Brocca. Use a Fibonacci sequence in his collection, blending at maths and through the curve pleating technique, which is known as a curve spiral technique. This technique combines the creativity with the mathematical principle inspired from logarithmic spiral that form based on the Fibonacci sequence. So in these sections, I will discuss how the mathematical sequence can be used to evaluate the efficiency in pattern making and production. Using the garment work study metric, I focus the key metrics like mark efficiency, cycle time, resource utilization, and the seam count and the waste percentages and all. So moving on with the research methodology, I research on the approach combination of both qualitative and the quantitative method using the comparative approach to evaluate the efficiency and different technique. The research focus on the contents with analysis of how the Fibonacci sequence was adapted in the creative pattern making with the garment work study analyzing metrics. And the research scope was limited to the specific design, as I mentioned, Izumiyaki origami construction technique, and the Sino Sato's TR pattern construction technique, and the Andrea Brocca's spiral pleating technique. Focusing on the sampling, I use the purposive sampling, a selected example on the specific criteria related to Fibonacci sequence in the creative pattern making. To ensure the consistency, I used standard 1 meter by 1 meter cotton grade fabric with 172 grams weight as a fixed variable to all three designers, as I mentioned, Andrea Brocca, Sino Sato, and Izumiyaki. The key variables analyzed include the under the work study analyzing metric for the meaningful comparison with each designer. So when it comes to the data collecting method, the primary data come through the hands-on experiment with the samples analysts working on the study metrics. Secondary data include the research on scholar articles, publication, and the media sources and the designers' methods. So the research used the mixed method of approach, a combination of qualitative and the quantitative method to analyze the depth of Fibonacci sequence in creative pattern making. The qualitative analysis focus on the design aesthetic and the artistic value of the designs, as well as when it comes to the quantitative analysis, the exam of the metric through the symmetrical observation using the garment work study analyzing metric. So when it's come to the finding and analysis, these are the 4 sectors that I was divided when it's come to my finding and analysis. Under the research scope, I select the 3 designers, as I mentioned. In the finding sector, under the research scope, I select the 3 designers, Izumiyaki, Sino Sato, and Andrea Brocca, previously mentioned. Since their original sample design was not accessible for the research method, I replicate the sample by carefully following the technique that they used, and the objective was analyze the impact of the pattern construction technique efficiency and design aesthetic with the replication process was conducted with the control environment with the scope of the research. So here are the samples that I was replicated according to the origami Izumiyaki's construction technique. So here is the final outcome, and when it's come to the TR pattern construction by Sino Sato, here is the implementation sample, and here is the final outcome, and here is the Andrea Brocca's implementation sample, and this is the final outcome. So when it's come to using the here are the data gathered working under the studiometric analysis, and here are the data that I was gathered from the replicated sample under the control environment. Here is the final calculations when it comes to the designers. In comparison to marker efficiency and the waste percentage, Miyake's technique was most space efficient, but the high waste due to the smaller production cut space. The Sinosato's high marker efficiency and the lower cut waste, but used to move fabric. Broadcast design had a mid-range on efficiency and high waste percentage through the slightly more efficient than the Sinosato's fabric cut. So since the final marker was fixed, comparing the mark efficiency with the waste shows the high lower fabric indicate as a better marker efficiency. So when it's come to comparing the seam count and the cycle time, Miyake's technique is most efficient with the fewer seams, and the Sinosato's TR cut technique is more complex with the high seam count, while broadcast design moderate the integrate. When it's come to the cycle time, Miyake is faster and ideal quickly for the production. The Sato's design take a longest time due to the complexity, while the broadcast remain the balance in between them. So here are the inside of the finding. Miyake's origami technique is most efficient with the low waste percentage and fast production, making it ideal space for space efficient designs. So when it comes to Sato's TR pad construction technique, the high waste and the longest production time suited for the design but less practical from the larger scale production. So when it comes to the broadcast Fibonacci sequence 1, it's balanced between the fabric efficiency and the design with moderate with the waste and the production time. So when it's come to analyze the benefit of the academic and the fashion industry by showing the how the mathematical concept like Fibonacci sequence influence in the pattern making, it inspired the designers breaking the couture garments as well as the mass market fashion while improving the creativity and the efficiency. So when it's come to future research, the future research can be involved with more designer to explore how the mathematical concept like Fibonacci sequence can improve with the larger scale production. So when it's come to, it could be focusing on applying these technique and mass production with better economic and environmental outcome. This research highlight the importance of efficiency and the creativity, showing how the mathematical concept connect with the design can support through sustainable and profitability. So moving on with the future research explanation here I mentioned before. So when it's come to the final conclusion, for the conclusion, this research explored how the mathematical concept, especially the Fibonacci sequence, can be applied to creative pattern making in the fashion by analyzing the technique of Issey Miyake, Sinosato, and Ria Brocca, focusing on improving the efficiency, creativity, and sustainability in the garment production. The study identified the challenges in applying these methods in mass market fashion and aimed to bridge in the gap between the couture garments and the mass production. The finding highlights how this technique can be enhanced the design innovation, optimize the production, and promote sustainability, ultimately contribute to the economical growth in fashion industry. So here is the summary of the research finding and how topic was comparatively analysis, adaptive method, and the Fibonacci sequence in creative pattern making. And thank you for the listening.
Thank you very much, Nonis. It's incredible content. Exactly, it's my subject, the pattern making, because without pattern making, I don't think we can do the fashion. That's the main highlighted part. We can just highlighting the fashion with the pattern making. And if we can just combine the creative side with arts and science, I think there's definitely innovation can happen. So thanks for raising that thing. It's incredible findings, and good luck for your future. Next presentation, I would like to introduce. The topic is an investigation into typographic compositions in Ceylon tea brand packaging. And the Gunawardana K.A.U.M. and Samaravikrama S. I think the presenter is Gunawardana K.A.U.M. I cordially invite the person who's doing the presentation. The stage is for you. Good luck for the presentation.
Hello, good morning. I am Udari Gunardana. Sri Lanka's tea industry has a long and storied history, producing some of the finest teas in the world. So why Ceylon tea? Ceylon tea is a globally recognized brand. Ceylon tea is a globally recognized brand due to specifications such as global recognition, unique flavors that based on diverse climatic conditions, ethical and sustainability, a legacy of quality, the original orthodox process and cultural significance. Sri Lanka's tea landscape is divided into 7 distinct districts, each with its own unique character. Much like renowned wine regions of France, these districts produce teas with specific flavor profiles. Ceylon tea packaging surface graphics have evolved over time, reflecting the changing tastes and the preference of consumers. From the early days of simple functional packaging, wooden chests, to the contemporary emphasis on sustainability and minimalist design, Sri Lankan tea packaging continued to be a vital role for promoting the country's tea industry and captivating consumers around the world. Sri Lanka holds a strong position in the global tea industry. However, by focusing on innovative packaging design and leveraging the power of typography, we can further enhance our competitive edge in the international market. The role of typography in tea packaging hasn't been extensively researched. By delving into this area, we can provide valuable insights to tea industry and exporters, helping them boost sales and brand recognition. This research will explore typographic trends, styles in Ceylon tea packaging, analyze how typography contributes to brand identity and differentiation. Direct observation will be the primary method to gather visual data on current Sri Lankan tea packaging. This approach is necessary as there aren't any other readily accessible sources. The Sri Lankan Tea Board Sales Center is the perfect place to check out different tea brands and compare their packaging designs. This will give a real-world view of current trends. Black tea was the most popular category among the roughly 30 tea brands offered at Sri Lankan Tea Board Sales Center. After collecting sales data from May to September, I categorized the tea brands into high-selling, mid-selling, and low-selling groups. I then selected 5 brands from each category for further analysis. Packaging design components are divided into 2 categories, visual and verbal. As a major visual component, typography used on packaging is a direct line that brands use communicate their messaging to their customers. According to research findings, consumers' first impression of a product are formed in a couple of seconds. Since tea packaging is an initial point of contact between a customer and product, it serves as a brand's face. How can a simple font change the way we perceive a product? The power of typography holds the answer. Brands may influence consumer behavior and leave a lasting impression by carefully choosing and utilizing typefaces. With so many various brands and flavors available in tea industry, It is critical for tea companies to figure out how to set themselves apart. Even though typography plays a big part in packaging design, there isn't much research that focuses on the typographic styles used in Ceylon tea branding. For the Ceylon tea sector to continue to succeed, the better understanding of how typography affects consumer perception, brand identification, and market competitiveness is essential. The iconic lion logo has served as a symbol of quality and authentic Ceylon tea for numerous years. However, many tea brands aren't using it correctly. They are placing it in weird spots like the bottom of the package or in tiny corners. It is likely hiding a treasure. I began by analyzing the typography of logo design from selected tea brands. By separating each logo into components, brand name, tagline, icon, shape, and color, I was able to easily identify the specific typographic styles employed by each brand. Importance of branding and typography in tea packaging. In the fast-paced world of consumer goods, first impressions matter. Tea packaging is no exception. A well-designed package can captive consumers, build brand loyalty, and drive sales. By combining strong branding and effective typography, tea companies can create packages that stand out shelves and resonate with their target audience. Theories and principles of typography in packaging design. Hierarchy. Design hierarchy is the arrangement of elements in design to guide the viewer's eye and empathize the most important information. It's like a visual roadmap that directs the viewer's attention. Information hierarchy is the organization of content based on its importance. It ensures that the most critical information is easily accessible and understood. Key level of information hierarchy are primary information, secondary information, and tertiary information. Primary information. This is the most crucial information such as brand name and product name. It is typically displayed prominently and in a larger font size. Secondary information. This includes supporting details like flavor, quantity, and slogans. It's usually presented in a smaller font size but still visible. Tertiary information. This comprises less critical information such as ingredients, nutrition facts, and usage of instructions. It's often placed in a smaller font size and may require closer inspection. Typography trends in packaging. It's essential to stay current with graphic design trends. Since designers are now fusing the past and present to produce a fusion of epochs in design, it's actually beneficial to be knowledgeable of the past as well. Another option is to just use typography as the packaging background. Typography framing an open and closed frame encloses brand names, product kinds, slogans, or other words that require attention. This is actually a piece of packaging's 2D design rather than the label. This is additional marketing tactic to direct buyers' attention to the material. Minimalism. The graphic designers and their client determine how minimalistic a design can be. While some package designers take the extreme route, others employ the design trend with caution. Typographic technicalities in tea packaging design. Packaging can reflect brand's personality through its visual identity includes its logo, colors, typography, imagery, and other visual elements. In Nelson tea packaging, a neutral color palette and and an iconic typographic style are clearly identifiable. The use of around 6 different fonts in this design should be avoided in packaging design. Different scales of fonts and colors have been used to establish a visual hierarchy. The text and other elements have been clearly aligned and creatively placed, increasing the visual appeal and authenticity of packaging. In this slide, various typographic styles used to create the word tea in different tea brand names can be clearly identified. It can be identified that typographic theories have been misused in some Ceylon tea packaging designs. In this first image, the back surface exhibits a messy appearance due to alignment and spacing issues in the package information. The second package lacks the clear layout, and essential details such as the product name are missing, with the logo dominating the design. The third package employs around 6 different fonts, which can lead visual clutter and confusion. It is generally recommended to stick to a maximum of 2 or 3 typefaces. The fourth package lacks a clear visual hierarchy, making it difficult to determine the focal point. In the fifth image, crucial details like the logo, brand name, and product name blend into the background color, diminishing their visibility. The global tea market is highly competitive, and effective packaging design is crucial to attract consumers. Sri Lankan tea exporters can leverage these global trends by incorporating them into their packaging designs, while also highlighting the unique heritage and quality of Ceylon tea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gunawardhan. It's a timely done research, I think, because tea and Ceylon, there's a huge bond. We can't survive without tea. And calligraphy, and because I think the first impression of a product is the packaging. So it's a timely done content, and wish you all the very best just to do more research under this topic. So I would like to introduce the third presenter. The topic is Sri Lankan leather industry constraints in expanding access to the global market. Vikramage DN and Gunaratna GDSC. I think the presenter is Vikramage DN. I would like to invite Ms. Vikramage, just the stage for you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dursha Vikramage. Starting with my topic. Thank you. Sri Lankan leather industry constraining expanding access to global market. Let me start by giving a brief overview of Sri Lankan leather industry. This industry has a long history originating from traditional vegetable tanning practices in late 19th century. Over the years, it has involved focusing mainly producing footwear and leather goods. The focus of my research is on the constraints that limit Sri Lankan leather industry ability to access the global market. Although the industry has growth potential, it has faced several challenges that have hindered in its international expansion. Understand the challenges is crucial because the leather industry has the potential to play a significant role in Sri Lanka, especially Sri Lankan economic developments. If these constraints can be addressed, it would be open up for the opportunities for increased export, job creation, and alignment with global sustainability and ethical standards. The research and the objectives. In this slide, I want to highlight that core issues that my research address, as well as the key objectives I aim to achieve. The research problem is that the Sri Lankan leather industry is facing several significant constraints that limit its potential to compete in global market. Despite the industry history and existing capability, it struggles expanding internationally. To tackle this problem, my research is guided by three main objectives: analyze the current situation of Sri Lankan leather industry, identify the constraints affecting market expansion, and analyze the importance element and determine how serious they are in limited global growth. Current situation of Sri Lankan leather industry. As you can see, the Sri Lankan leather industry is stagnant, contributing under 0.5% of national export and struggling globally. Dominated by small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, it relies heavily imported raw materials, which raise cost and limit competitiveness. Outdated technology is widespread, with 70% of tanneries using inefficient machinery, resulting in lower quality of productivity. In my research, as in methodology, in my research I use qualitative approach to display deeply explore the constraints facing in Sri Lankan leather industry. This approach allows me to gather comprehensive insight from various perspectives. Data collection was mainly conducted through the interviews, and in addition to interviews, I conducted observation within production setting. This allowed me to see the first-hand challenges craftsmen face during the leather processing stages. To enrich my findings, I developed three distinct case studies. These case studies each highlight the different aspects of industry. To ensure the reliability of my data, I use triangulation method. This means I cross-reference the information gathered from interviews, observation, and case studies to validate the findings. Identify key constraints. After truly analyzing the data collected from interviews, observation, and case studies, I identified several key constraints. Those are starting with limited availability and quality of raw materials. The one of main challenges is scarcity of high quality raw material. The industry relies heavily imported hides, which are costly and contribute higher production expenses. Local hides often suffer from poor preservation method, definitely, so they're reducing their quality. And lack of skills and expertise. There's a shortage of skilled workers in Sri Lankan leather industry, particularly modern leather processing techniques, and the reliance of traditional method has limited to the ability to innovate and improve in efficiency. Outdated technology. The most leather production units in Sri Lanka outdated machinery, use outdated machinery and traditional process. This lead inefficient production, higher waste, and increased cost. Cultural factors, cultural and religious practices in Sri Lanka. If you know about this, that the Sri Lanka has the Buddhism and Tamil culture. So cultural and religious practices in Sri Lanka impact the availability of raw material. For an example, certain religious festivals lead temporary reduction of animal slaughter, affecting seasonal supply of hides. These factors introduce the inconsistency in raw material availability, impacting production schedules. So in my case studies, I divided these into three stages. First, I spoke with the individual leather craftsmen to understand their grassroots challenges, such as the difficulties in accessing quality raw material and the skill required for efficient production. In the second stage, I interviewed representatives from large organizations, including government and non-government bodies, to explore organization issues like technology gaps, labor shortage, and production inefficiency. Finally, I consulted with the industry expert from the Export Development Board to gain an insight from the border culture and policy related constraints that affected industry growth. So in the analysis, I used the thematic analysis method to analyze the findings. The analysis revealed the several critical critical constraint affecting Sri Lankan leather industry. These findings highlight the interconnected nature of these constraints, all of which need to be addressed for the industry to expand globally. In conclusion, the Sri Lankan leather industry faces several key constraints that limit their ability to complete the global stage. These challenges include lack of raw material, skill shortage, outdated technology, and cultural influences. Despite these potential, the industry struggles with inefficiency and higher production costs, which hinder its growth and international market access. Addressing these constraints through the skill development, technological investment, and improve the raw material sourcing can significantly enhance the industry's competitiveness by adopting sustainable and ethical practices. Sri Lankan leather industry can be tapped into emerging global market, creating a new opportunity for growth and international recognition. With targeted reform informations, the Sri Lankan leather industry has I believe that Sri Lankan leather industry has the great potential to thrive on the global stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vikramage. I think the leather industry in Sri Lanka, we have some cultural restrictions. Vegan leather, I think there are some entrepreneurs here. Just think about the vegan leather, how we can make. It's a good research for the leather industry people. Thank you very much for the presentation. And next, the last presenter of this session, session 6, I would like to invite Aryatilaka, PBSD, and Samaravikrama. I think it's Sumatri Samaravikrama, co-author. And the topic is environmentally responsive traditional packaging practice. Panimula, I think. Yes, that's a great topic. I welcome Ms. Aryatilaka and good luck for your presentation.
Integrated design. So as someone who is deeply fascinated about packaging design, at the beginning of this research, I was curious about most globally discussed topic, sustainable packaging. This curiosity led me to discover that our grandmothers, initially our ancestors, used sustainable packaging as their part of their eco-friendly lifestyle. This inspired me to explore traditional packaging practices which can be described as environmentally responsive packaging practices. Sri Lankan traditional packaging like Pirivassa Jagru packagings made from natural biodegradable material such as leaves, fibers and clays. They have minimal environmental impact, reflect a deep connection to the nature. Unlike modern synthetic packaging, traditional packaging can decompose naturally and also leaving no harmful leftovers to the earth. This time-tested method developed our generation provide eco-conscious alternatives for storing and transporting goods. As such, traditional packaging practices are essential environmentally responsive solutions that align with sustainability principles, make it crucial to explore traditional packaging. But there is a lack of documented information on traditional packaging in Sri Lanka despite its cultural and eco-friendly relevance. Prehistoric Sri Lankan used clever methods of stringing snail shells together, which can be identified as the first Sri Lankan traditional packaging type. Then traditional packaging method initially developed from the nuclear family use, later evolved for the commercial purposes with goods sold in local markets like Kada and Polas and by vendors. Unfortunately, Doran Allen's traditional form of packaging and vending book in 1982 is the only formal source about this traditional packaging in Sri Lanka. This lack of documentation poses a threat to these traditional practices, making it urgent to preserve these traditional practices before they are lost to time. So from this research, we aim to document these practices for the future. So this preservation is started by reviewing and analyzing the book of traditional form and packaging and vending, and found that more than 35 traditional packaging. But among these packaging, we found one and only liquid packaging is panimula packaging. So in a world where liquid packaging like plastic bottles cause environmental problems, we have eco-friendly liquid packaging, panimula, which might be capable of solving huge environmental problems. So considering its significance like that, panimula packaging became our case study in the research. Then with the aim of documenting the traditional packaging practices of panimula, we followed a qualitative research design. Data was collected through field visit to the Kitul tracker producers in villages, interviews with elderly individuals involved in this practice, and a review of literature. Initially, we focused on understanding the significance of panimula packaging and its eco-responsiveness. So panimula is made from areca nut leaf sheath. It's used to store Kitul tracker, a staple food of ancient Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, areca nut palm sheaths are considered agricultural waste. By transforming this waste to a packaging, panimula shows eco-responsiveness by reducing waste and promoting resource efficiency. So when talking about the traditional packaging around panimula, it's in the past, panimula hung in the Sri Lankan chimneys, curing Kitul tracker naturally over a month or years. The smoke curing preserved the tracker and transformed it to the valley hakuro and jaggery at the base in the packaging. This tradition showcased that panimula dual functionality as storage and the transformation tool, enabling energy-free preservation and crystallization without extra containers or refrigerations. Also, panimula serves as a symbol of hospitality, as is used being in the Buddhist and the religious rituals. But today, the use of panimula has significantly declined and is now mostly limited to the Kitul industry. And occasionally, you can see the panimula packaging in sweet tables in wedding known as kavidi mese. Also, this research mainly documents the step-by-step process of creating panimula. Production used materials like dry areca palm sheath, coconut meat strips, and the natural cords, also knife as the main tool. In the construction stage, panimula achieves leak-proof sidewalks, though simple technique like rolling the sheath around the mid-rib and tying in the corners, entirely free from adhesives or pastings, relying slowly on creasing, folding, and tying. It clearly creates a container capable of storing liquid, showcasing the brilliance of our traditional craftsmanship. Before filling the tracker, some artisans shape the packaging using rice, and some do with their hand shaping. Then after filling the tracker, they are sealing the packaging with natural coats. Likewise, this handcrafted panimula production relies slowly on waterfall cleaning with cutting and folding and tying techniques that avoid chemicals and energy-intensive methods, showcasing the 100% of eco-friendly and sustainable nature through traditional handcrafted techniques at every stage. Not only that, when studying the anatomy of the packaging, we understand that the panimula showcases eco-friendliness through its functional and the sustainable design. Utilizing durable materials like areca palm sheath, this material process by removing the outer layer offers flexibility to this packaging. Also, its container-like shape with a wider base and a slightly smaller opening naturally secures liquid. Most importantly, the collapsible design of the panimula enhances storage efficiency before use, showcasing its practicality. As shown in the top of the picture, panimula features different seal and closure types. Closures with handles were essential for our ancestors because they walk long distance and storage this panimula near fireplaces. Over time, with changes in transportation, handles were often omitted, but the closure grip is ensured it's easy carrying. As shown in the bottom of the picture, the tight corners at the base acting as feet ensure the package stand is upright on the flat surface with the support of curved pots when serving. Overall, the texture of the Aka palm sheath and the natural coats as this packaging eco-friendly appeal, but it also contributes to its beauty. When coming to the life cycle, the production process is waste-free, it's durable, utility and function also allows that too for the multiple uses, and the minor damage can be repaired with just a little of slack of lime, promotes repair and reuse. Also, at the end of its usability, the packaging naturally decomposes into compost or can be used as fuel, returning nutrition to the environment. This circular process results in a zero waste and minimal environmental impact, showcasing how traditional packaging like panimula, bound with eco-responsiveness through every stage of its life cycle. So now you might be thinking, why should we study about these old traditional practices? Let me take you through an inspiration from Japanese furoshiki, a traditional wrapping method. So today, Japanese designers have reimagined this furoshiki tradition into modern sustainable packaging solution. This revival not only promotes eco-consciousness, but also highlights Japan's deep cultural roots, creating a very unique design identity admired worldwide. So as Sri Lankan designers, can't we do the same? Sri Lankan heritage is rich with traditional packaging methods like panimula. These timeless practices hold huge potential to inspire modern adaptation, green innovations. By perceiving and reinterpreting them, we can develop innovative, eco-friendly packaging solutions that showcase our tradition and addressing contemporary needs. Such efforts can lead unique Sri Lankan design identity. Reviving these practices is more than just a nod to the past. It's an opportunity to showcase our creativity, celebrate our heritage, and contribute to the sustainable future on the global stage. So let's meet again soon with a new sustainable design inspired by these eco-conscious traditional practices like panimula. Thank you.
Traditional packaging, I think it's a great presentation. When I see that, I feel like all the fashionable handbags of ladies, the clutches, oh, that's a panimula you can take as inspiration. Try to make something, it's sustainable. Thank you very much. So that is our last presenter, and I would like to invite all our distinguished 4 presenters to the stage. And it's for the discussion. I think I have mentioned earlier to the audience, please write down few questions to ask from each presenter. Please come, all of 4 people, the stage for you. Known as PDMC for the first presenter, and the Gunawardana KUM, the second presenter, and the Vikramage DN, third presenter, and the last presenter, Arya Tilaka PBSD. So I would like to invite the audience, that's your time. Please raise a few questions from them, because they have done a great 4 presentations. Please raise your voice. I would like to ask the very first presenter, known as PDMC. His topic is a comparative analysis of different adaptation methods of the Fibonacci sequence in creative pattern making. I think there are few people here who are really interested about the pattern making. Please raise few questions from known as PDMC, the first presenter. Yes.
Sorry. So, hi. Your presentation, it's really interesting. So, my question is, what are the dependents and the fixed variables in your research that you point out?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
When it's come to the dependent variable, as mentioned in the presentation as well, so when it's come to dependent variables, mark efficiency, cycle time, resource utilizations, and the seam amount are considered as a dependent variables. So when it's come to the fixed variable are considered as I mentioned in the presentation as well, when it's come to the sample implementing, so I use 1 meter by 1 meter cotton grade fabric as a fixed variable, which is come to waste-based calculation in 172 grams. So it can be considered as a fixed variable. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nonis. We can give a few more time for the first presenter. Any questions? Okay, then shall I move to the second presenter? Is it okay? Yes. Our second presenter is Gunawardana KAUM, and the topic is an investigation into typographic compositions in Ceylon tea brand packaging. Any questions from her? Yes. There.
Hello, Ms. Gunawardana. Your presentation is also good. And I want to ask from you, were you able to identify insights about the creative thinking practices of these packaging samples you analyzed?
Yes. You mentioned about the typographic.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I have identified the creative practices in typographic, especially in national tea brand. They widely use that practices.
Okay, thank you.
I can give you more time for the second presenter. Any questions from packaging?
Hi, love the presentation. And as it seems that you had to work with a lot of brands and companies to gather this internal information. So how did you gather this internal information? And also as most of us are upcoming designers, what would you like to share about, as in what insight that you gained from this research?
The collecting data was the most crucial part in my research, because most of tea packaging companies didn't like to share their sensitive data about their packaging designs. So after tried to reach them and contact the Tea Research Institute and Tea Museum also, I couldn't find those data. So I went to the Ceylon Tea Board, and I could get the information about their the export tea packaging, the tea sales from May to September. So from those data, I could observe the most of tea package designs in their tea board sales center. That's how I collected those data. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gunawardana. And gradually I'm moving to the third presenter, and the topic is Sri Lankan leather industry constraints in expanding access to the global market. Ms. Vikrama Gay, yes. Any questions from the audience? Please raise a question. Any suggestions even? No questions, that's okay. Any suggestions? Any improvements? Any comments? Because I think the audience want to interact with them, otherwise they are discouraged. You want to ask few questions. That's great, they are presenting their studies and findings here. Please encourage them.
Hi, I have a question. What inspired you to do this design? Sorry? For the Panimula, what inspired you?
That is regarding the leather industry. Third one.
Yeah.
Sorry for the delay of the question.
Okay, I will answer then about the panimula. Actually,
That's okay, yes.
the what inspired me is actually I had a discussion with Professor Nimaldi Silva, who knows about these traditional practices. When I'm going to intervene, in the beginning, I was just want to know about these traditional practices because it can connect with sustainable packaging. But after meeting him, I understand that how these traditional practices are important in Sri Lanka and that we must preserve them. That was the thing mostly inspired me to carry this research into come here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arya Tilaka. Any questions? Because her topic is environmentally responsive traditional packaging practice, panimula. Any questions regarding panimula?
Exceptional presentation. I would like to know, have you considered like using design elements or like carvings on this panimula? I haven't seen your executions, but have you considered that how to incorporate design when you take it forward?
Thank you for the question. Actually, I guess that's for the audience to think, inspire from this traditional packaging panimula. We can do many things with that. Actually, I guess I have seen the carvings on the Arka palm sheet where in the tablewares in India and Sri Lanka, we are doing some plates and tablewares, and they are incorporating like laser cuts like that. So I guess in the we can do embroidering things and carvings in the packaging and take that panimula into a next level where it's suited to the modern society. Yeah, thank you.
Any questions? Because I can see she's really interesting about her topic and I can see her expressions regarding her research. Any questions regarding that?
I have one question. Very happy to see you on stage there. So you are keen on packaging. So I have a question. Like when we are doing natural material, when we use natural material for packaging, so we are ultimately preserving another product, right? So honey is a product, so you are preserving honey. So how do you, what are the things you consider in scientifically, like did you try to find any ways to any other, like because you are using a natural, protecting natural thing with a natural one. So the chemical reactions, the natural fungus creating, so those kind of things also you should consider. So did you try to find about that? Or especially when we select a traditional one, those problems have come to them long time ago. So they have used that packaging a long time ago. So that means there is no harm, let's guess. But there should be a scientific way to test what are the fungus, what are the reactions. So did you consider about that things? Because also in other countries, then I saw you shown us Japan systems. So likewise, in other countries, there are another traditional, let's say the natural materials using for packaging. So in that things also like for kehel kole, so we use banana leaf for wrapping the food. But in Western countries, they don't agree with that. So we should, there is a huge research we have to do to approve that from the other countries, because we know natural material is 100% good for biodegradable. It's degradable, but how do you did you think about it, and how do you take your research forward by considering that aspect?
Thank you for the question. Actually, this research is mainly focused on historical research base. So there was limitation where I might not go for the material testing and the scientific component, but initially from reading research about the ARCA flam sheet properties, this packaging can actually ARCA flam sheet is a durable material, and in the process of this packaging tracker, with the time it's in the fireplaces, the tracker is transformed into the sand crystallization. That is the preservation method that I am admired and most focused on. This is somewhat a property comes from the property of durability of ARCA sheet farm, but actually there was the limitation about this going with the scientific properties. But I guess in the next researches, I will mostly focus on these material innovations and scientific components more than this. And when it's come to the world packaging, there was banana plates and like that. So if we are going to implement this package into Sri Lanka, we have to do many, because I talk with the people who are using this animal packaging in their operation as the tracker entrepreneurs. They are facing many problems with like delivering things, because this e-commerce thing, the when delivering the animal, there will be spoilages of the tracker like that. And the modern use of this is also going like the gift giving thing. So if we are going to adapt this into this modern society, I guess we have to do more in the designs and innovation and with the material. Thank you. I guess I have
Thank
answered.
you, Aryatilaka. Yes, a good question and reasonable answer, but I think that's the next stage for the audience. Anyone who can just continue the research, testing. Yes, do a research. That's very good, because we are Sri Lankans, we want to take our heritage, and yes, that's a good pathway. Yes, I want to give a few time for the Sri Lankan leather industry constraints in expanding access to the global market, because she is really expect to answer your questions. Please raise even few questions, even a single question.
Yes, I think I have one. Hi, it's an amazing research. I just wanted to know, you suggested in the conclusions, of course, about intervention with integrating, especially focusing on positioning in the global market than this level. So as a designer, also for these young designers, what are your suggestions how design can be integrated there in this existing net of this canvas of the industry? What are your own suggestions?
This is my own suggestion. So after doing this research, what I found out is there's really leather industry is in a stagnation. So integrated these things, we can move forward with the global industry. That means the global fashion industry moving with the sustainability, eco-sustainability and ethical practices. So definitely I think we can move on with the vegan leather, vegan biomaterials, eco-materials, and I think we can integrate this leather, not a leather, but we can get the look and feel with the ethical practices.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are moving to the very last bit of the sixth session, and there are incredible 4 presenters I really appreciate, because the creative industry, we have this stage for you all, the audience. Next time, please present your things here and just recognize yourself as a great designer or a creator. And I think now the certificate awarding thing is the last bit, so I would just invite Praneeth to take the stage.
Yes, I will invite the presenters one by one, so you can take the certificates. So first presentation, the certificate for the first presentation, PDMC Nonis. We have certificates for the author and also for the co-author as well. Then the next certificate goes to KAUM Gunawardana. The next certificate goes to DN Vikramage. The next certificate goes to PBSD Arya Tilaka.
Thank you very much. So we are going to close up the 6th session, and we would like to have you all for the 7th session.
So we warmly welcome you again for the 7th session of Integrated Design Research Conference 2024. Here we have interesting research under the theme of design across technologies, economy and industries, vernacular knowledge and practices. So I would like to invite presenters to get ready. So we have some exciting presentations in line. And also I would like to call upon Dr. Aisha Vikramasinghe to initiate the session 7.
Yes, welcome you all for the 7th session. After a few minutes, we're going to start the 7th session. Yes, very first topic, enhancing English oracy at Dehiwala Mahavidyalaya with a community-centric approach using playhouse strategy and visual communications. Pereira H and Lianage UPP. This is an online presentation, so I think the technical bit is okay for the online presentation, so I will just invite them to start the presentation.
Good morning everyone. I am Harshini Pereira presenting my short abstract for the IDR conference. And my title is Enhancing English Oracy at Dehiwala Mahavidyalaya with a community-centric approach using playhouse strategy and visual communications. So before moving on to the presentation, I'd like to take you through a small video clip which shows how I laid the foundation towards the project scope. So let's move on to the video.
In rural Sri Lanka, enhancing English language skills is vital for students' future social mobility, but many face challenges, struggling during English presentations and interactions during higher education or in workplaces. Students initially overlook the importance of English until they encounter obstacles like expressing themselves and communicating. It's then they realize the significance of language skills to climb up the social hierarchy. Meet Mr. Moratuwa, an English teacher at Katawala Secondary School. He is using creative activities to simplify lessons and engage students. Through innovative approaches like the playhouse strategy, Mr. Moratuwa boosts students' confidence, making language learning enjoyable, which made him the best language teacher of the year in 2016. Students at Katawala School now speak English confidently, embracing language skills despite making mistakes.
Our teachers check the knowledge of this vocabulary.
Analyzing various language models, it was observed a common thread, which is gamification. Even in small measures, gamification enhances engagement and learning. Diving deeper into game dynamics, key elements emerge that make activities engaging are appointment dynamics, status, progression, and communal discovery. While Mr. Ranasinghe's playhouse strategy is effective, it requires long-term dedication. But this strategy isn't accessible and applicable to all rural contexts, and crafting a strategy tailored for rural students, making English learning enjoyable and accessible during school hours was required, which further has the capability to develop as a system. Join me in my mission to inspire a love for English learning among rural students. Together we can enrich language skills and open doors to new opportunities.
So that video was how I shortly arrived at my project scope. And when speaking about arriving at the strategy that I was focusing on, I considered 3 challenges in the rural school classrooms regarding English language learning. So my point number 1 is there's a limited class duration of 40 minutes, which is also insufficient for impactful learning experiences for the children. And point number 2 is there is a lack of educational resources such as interactive books, the visual aids, maybe graphical aids, and also reading materials. The third point is the content in the government school books is often uninspiring and consisting of plain text without engaging elements for children. And this is my project scope, and the diagram clearly shows how I have addressed 3 layers within my project. So first I'll be addressing the social background, then the rural student-teacher community, and also narrowing it down to English teachers in rural schools, which is the core of my project scope. So to start with my design, it has several sections where I had to dissect my design decision making. So as the first steps, I had to come up with the clear objectives and also identify what are the future goals, the main plans within my project, and also the strategies that I'm going to address this, and also in a way how I'm going to execute the plans. So this diagram shows how my design decision making will be laid down in double diamond theory, and also it shows how broadening the understanding before setting objectives, and also imagining a wide array of potential strategies, and also putting so much effort into identify what are the choices that are coming into play. When speaking about gamification, this is one of the important elements in my project, because gamification is one of the elements I had to apply in order to teach these students on how to create an enthusiasm and a motivation towards learning English. So here, gamification simply means the use of game thinking elements in context different from games. So these game dynamics, or else these gamification elements, can also happen through other common games or else more simple forms of interaction. So this flow chart shows my strategic framework, which is starting along with the inspiration from the educator, where I got the basic inspiration, who is Mr. Wilbert Ransinger from Catawala School, and also identify a challenge in the Sri Lankan context, which is also common to all the kids in the rural areas. Then designing an activity, and then coming into the implementation of this design or else the activity within the classrooms, and also studying the student engagement, and then the teacher empowerment, and also coming back with feedback and adaptation with long-term sustainability. So when I was considering to develop my project, there were 3 points to consider for a target audience. So my 3 pointers were avoiding senior students who are preparing for GCE O-levels and A-levels, because their main focus is on the O-levels and A-levels examinations. And point number 2 is excluding the younger grades from 1 to 5 who are focused on grade 5 scholarship examination. And point number 3 is focusing on that children are most capable of language acquisition between the ages of 10 to 13. So if they miss the opportunities of learning a language, it is much more easier to implement it in this age range. So Speaking about the best audience to deliver, it was finally analyzed through research that children between the age range of 10 to 13 are highly capable of language acquisition if they miss early learning opportunities from the age range of 0 to 4. So the junior secondary students in rural areas are ideal candidates for this communication strategy in order to implement the project. So let's move on to a small video clip which shows how this background research was done by interviewing the kids. Then speaking about the familiar games for the audience. So after a thorough analysis and having conversations with the kids, it was finally understood that the kids prefer outdoor games over indoor games because they love spending hours playing and enjoying these games after school with their friends. So the most number of votes through this survey was gained for the game of hopscotch and also for playing cards because they enjoy hopscotch in a complex way and hopscotch patterns in a complex way, which inspires also my design and it helped me to make the design decision. Then speaking about the context of Delvita, this is a very rural village which lies in the heart of Delvita. And also the children has a passion for learning English despite of all the difficulties that they face. So there were basically 3 points to think about, which are also the opportunities. So the opportunities are the principal having a vision to uplift English speaking in the school, and the second point is having a lack of educational resources in order to support these children. The main third point is there are 2 English teachers in the school and these 2 teachers have a need to have an English activity room with visual learning resources for the children. And the fourth point, which is a sub-point, is also that the kids are unable to even come up with self-introductions, which is the fundamental step of speaking and expressing oneself in another language. So this was one of the main points that helped me to arrive at my project scope. And then, speaking about how this playhouse strategy and the Delvita context interconnect, as you can see here, this diagram, the blue circle shows how the playhouse strategy created by Mr. Wilbert Ranasinghe is, and the next circle, you can see here, the orange one, the Delvita student-teacher community that looks for support in English speaking, and they are looking for an aid and also a helping hand from somebody to develop this strategy. And the overlapping section is how the communicating and enhanced strategy through visual communication comes into play. So this is the intersection is the place where I come into play as a designer with visual communications. So when speaking about how Playhouse can't alone make it, of course Playhouse can't alone move into this kind of a strategy because it has to be enhanced and developed through design decision making. And after considering the context of Delvita, it was understood that these kids need something more than the Playhouse strategy, which is Playhouse by the sense, the Playhouse that they know, which is the Pollathu Pala, as we refer to that in Sinhala. So they love playing with these playhouses and also coming up with something that I can bring into these playhouses that will make the kids more encouraging and more motivated to learn English in a different context rather than the school classroom. So in Delvita, Introducing the playhouse strategy requires starting from small steps. So beginning by sparking an interest in English speaking and then gradually building motivation by motivating the kids to come to outdoor activities, and that was one of the main steps I had to take. So that concludes my presentation on the short abstract. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pereira. I think it's a great presentation and the content is great because the research is not just to keep away, it should be practical because we are gaining the free education and whatever she has given to the nation is great. So I think it's a great research. And secondly, I would like to invite Shenit WDJN and Veerasinghe WMAI. The topic is exploring the use of feathers in traditional handloom. So I invite the person who's doing the presentation and wish you all the very best.
Right. Hello everyone, I'm Shenit Vaudagethara and my project is the exploration of the use of feathers in our traditional handloom in the hopes to innovate our tradition and in a sustainable way. This is basically the breakdown of how the flow for today's presentation is going to go. Speaking about the Sri Lankan handloom industry, it dates back actually to Vijaya and Queni, as when Vijaya stepped foot on the island, Queni was seen to be spinning cotton, which is basically the preparation of cotton for the weaving process. However, with the industrialization and automation of things, slowly handloom has lost its edge and machine loom has sadly taken over. However, as this problem was identified, it was also identified that handloom needs to be contemporized to adapt to the current standard in design. So first, handloom is a way of weaving. How do we weave? So when it comes to weaving, we have a warp, which is your vertical thread, and then we have a weft, which is your horizontal thread. It's a matter of sending this horizontal thread in to create a woven textile. Now that we know how to weave, let's see how this research objective was formed. So handloom textiles are sustainable, but how can we make them more sustainable? It was an exploration into how many changes in the weft could be made to change the texture of the handloom fabric. This, in result, will promote sustainability to a cultural heritage while creating market innovation. How this technique was approached was using the waste feathers from our local poultry industry, converting them into rope-like structures after a process of cleaning in the hopes to create an alternative to faux feather fabrics and fur textiles in general. The process included of treating these unsanitary feathers to a sanitary standpoint, which was found difficult because once feathers are in contact with these hygienic products, they lose their airiness and they gain weight. Therefore, spraying these poultry waste feathers with hygienic products was found as the most effective way to go on forward. Afterwards, these feathers were twisted into rope-like structures, which are now readily available in the Sri Lankan market, which will thereby support local businesses. Afterwards, it was a matter of me going back to the frame loom, which was my best friend for this project, to figure out how I can use these rope structures now to do the weaving process. After I got a small understanding on how to do it, it was a matter of collaborating with our local handloom artisans to create a truly beautiful textile. So the structures will be sent in through, then locked into place, and they need to be hand-picked out and pressed in, and a simple plain weave can be done to lock them in place. The final products of this handloom were immensely similar to fur textiles. It also was comfortable to the wearer and can be made more comfortable through the use of a lining. And since handloom is light and airy, these fur textiles have this light and airy feel that can be easily adapted to the local market. They are not only functional, but they are also durable with the way the lining can be implemented. The marketability for this fabric can be obviously implemented to garments, being either couture versions or ready-to-wear versions, and also to interior design products, such as rugs or bed throw-overs, and so on. Here you could see some AI-generated images of how this textile can be reached to the market in both fashion design as well as interior design. But even when AI-generated images are done, it always showcases these heavy coats, which I would like to change with the introduction of this textile. So as we are moving into a world which is focused on sustainability as well as ethical fashion, the new generations can also get into handloom practices with these, with these types of innovations. Key takeaways of the research include this type of textile being a bridge between traditional culture and innovative contemporary design. It is also environmentally sustainable, not only environmentally, but also economically for the handloom artisans who are now struggling. It will open potential doors for the Sri Lankan textile industry if this is practiced in large, and we will again be able to export out handloom without always focusing on imports. So where does this take us? This takes us to an entire new handloom industry which can be explored. The handloom textiles produced like this will open doors for artisans as well as creating entirely new artisanal communities. This will also allow new generations to adapt to handloom, which has slowly been lost, creating a new sense of handloom coming from this great tradition. I would like to now extend a very big thank you to the local artisan, to this local handloom artisan, who I call Albert Uncle, for taking up the challenge to innovate on handloom. And this was just one example of how handloom can be made contemporary. There is so much room for exploration, maybe with the use of nanotechnology or experimentations of using elasticated thread in the handloom process to create new types of handloom. Albert Uncle is a person who was in the handloom industry for over 70 years and is sadly also agreeing to the fact that the craft is dying. So we were discussing, and I've made friends with him now, He's not just an artisan to me. And we are excited to build a new community, a new future, a new name to handloom textiles. I will leave the questions and discussions for when it is done, and thank you so much for today.
It's awesome, Sharif. I think it's an incredible outcome. And how you just upgrading two industries together. Yes, it's one of my favorite industry, handloom. Yes, I just give you thank and how you try to develop our artisans. Thank you very much for that effort. Thirdly, I'm going to introduce the third presenter, and the topic is identification of the key considerations to design assistive tools for blind lottery sellers in Sri Lanka. And the presenters are Manav Singha MDRN and Rana Singha WMND. I cordially invite the presenter, and please come the stage for you, and good luck with the presentation.
Hello everyone. So my research is identification of the key considerations to design assistive tools for blind lottery sellers in Sri Lanka. This is the presentation outline. So think about losing your sight. How would that feel? It's hard to even imagine. But for some individuals, this is their reality. There are people who never experienced sight in their entire life. Blindness is one of the most common disabilities in worldwide. While the essential contributions of the blind people to society, their challenges are unnoticed. These blind people face significant barriers to economic independence and inclusion. In Sri Lanka, lottery selling has become a common livelihood for many in the blind community. The reason behind this study is the noticeable gap in existing literature regarding the challenges blind lottery sellers face. Through this research, I aim to bridge that gap and create opportunities for this underrepresented community by identifying key considerations to design assistive tools for them. The first goal is to identify the challenges faced by the blind lottery sellers in Sri Lanka and to explore the psychological, physiological, social, and economic impacts of these challenges. Finally, the ultimate goal is to propose assistive design solutions that can enhance safety, improve efficiency, and promote independence for blind lottery sellers. When it comes to limitations, the study was limited to the Colombo district, which may not represent challenges faced by blind lottery sellers in rural or other urban areas of Sri Lanka. And also, these findings may not be directly applicable to blind individuals in the other employment sectors. Literature findings. In Sri Lanka, just a small number of blind people get to higher education, and they face significant challenges in their goals of education and work. Between 25 to 30 blind people enroll in the universities each year. A small number proceed to the ordinary level, and fewer finish the advanced level. The majority of blind people have limited educational qualifications, which limits their access to steady, well-paying jobs in the public or private sector. Because of this reason, the majority, roughly 60 to 70%, have turned to self-employment as a source of income. However, these self-employment activities are frequently unofficial, and many of them rely more on public sympathy than on formal business plans. Selling lottery tickets, books, and small goods like incense sticks at busy places like marketplaces, places of worship, and public transportation hubs are common ways to make money, and the others turn to begging on the street. This highlights the broader social and economic challenges that Sri Lanka's blind population face. And I want to highlight that there are no any research paper addressing the blind lottery sellers in Sri Lanka. Methodology. The study uses a qualitative approach combining observations, interviews, and literature to explore the challenges faced by blind lottery sellers in Colombo to identify key factors considered when designing assistive tools for them. Based on the observations and open-ended questionnaires, gathered detailed insights from blind lottery sellers. The questionnaire was designed to address psychological, physiological, sociological, ergonomic, and cognitive aspects. Selected context is Colombo, because the majority of blind lottery sellers are in Colombo, and Colombo is the most populated area in Sri Lanka. And it enables to highlight that particular challenges encountered by sellers in a busy urban environment, where crowded settings and quick transactions make their job more challenging. And the sample group included with blind lottery sellers who sells their lotteries in the Colombo area. Gathered data through the questionnaires and observations was analyzed by focusing on psychological, physiological, social, ergonomic, and cognitive aspects. In-depth interviews with blind lottery sellers revealed a number of social and psychological issues that have big influence on their day-to-day exercises. The psychological toll brought on by the ongoing possibility of cheating by customers was one of the main worries. Sellers reported instances of risks including the wrapping of non-winning tickets as winners, underpayment, and customers stealing more tickets than they had paid for. These people experience worry and emotional distress as result of this financial explanation. The requirement to navigate through crowded people areas causes the physiological difficulties of movement. Using a white cane to help navigate in crowded areas increases the risk of injury, since sellers are frequently involved in traffic accidents because of their poor vision and lack of mobility aids. To save weight, vendors just bring tiny backpack with necessities like a notebook containing previous winning numbers. But most of them don't carry umbrellas or water bottles, since they make it harder to navigation. However, without an umbrella, it might be difficult to sellers to locate cover in emergency because of their poor vision and need on others for direction. This emphasizes the necessity of lightweight, portable weather protection products to guarantee their security and mobility in bad weather. Sociological difficulties of dealing with social stigma increases psychological stress. Blind lottery vendors frequently rely on sympathy of general public, which can be advantageous in certain situations, but also exposes them to misuse and manipulation. Ergonomically handling lottery tickets and supervising transactions are major challenges for blind lottery sellers. The majority of sellers utilize one hand for holding their white cane and the other hand to hold tickets, which make it difficult for them to deal with cash and engage with customers. Additionally, cognitive difficulties were noted, especially with regard to memory and recall, in order to remember past winning numbers or arrange their tickets in the particular sequence. Many sellers must rely on their memory, which may result in transaction mistakes. When interacting with customers, this dependence on mental effort may result in delay. After analyzing the data, these are the research findings. To improve ticket handling and money management, should introduce wallet designs, ticket holders, or other gadgets that make it easier to handle cash and tickets securely and efficiently, while enabling the seller to move around with one hand free, reducing risk to theft. Tools to confirm transactions and guarantee responsible prices, boosting confidence in financial transactions. Enhancing safety and mobility. Safe and easily accessible navigational aids that reduce the chance of accidents and enhance mobility in crowded areas. Encouraging dignity and independence. Resources that help blind sellers do their jobs more on their own, minimizing the need of outside help or empathy. Key challenges faced by blind lottery sellers include difficulties with ticket handling, money management, safety, and mobility. By addressing these issues, the proposed solutions not only enhance their ability to work independently, but also improve their economic stability and dignity. And this research marks the beginning of a new project. And in near future, I plan to implement these findings through a product design. And I would like to express my gratitude to all the participants for their valuable support and cooperation throughout this research. And thank you very much.
I would like to thank you to take this kind of very sensitive topic, and it's really great for the society. Thank you very much, and I'm requesting others just to take something workable, something we can give for the society. That's great. So gradually we are coming to the last presenter of the session 7, Sri Lankan traditional motifs in contemporary interior surface design, adaptation and perception. Tilakaratna A.B. and Nugavela C.T. I'm inviting the presenter. This is the stage for you. Please come. Good luck for your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be presenting my final year dissertation research on the adaptation of Sri Lankan traditional motifs in contemporary interior design and their designers' perceptions. This research explores how these motifs can be integrated into modern spaces while preserving cultural identity and heritage. I'll start with the brief introduction. Sri Lanka is renowned for its rich heritage and traditional motifs that symbolize cultural and history. However, with globalization, there's a risk of losing this uniqueness. The research addresses how these motifs can be preserved and reinterpreted in contemporary interior surface designs, ensuring that traditional meets modernity. Preserving cultural identity is essential in an increasingly homogenized design world. This research highlights how integrating traditional motifs into modern interiors is not only a cultural celebration, but also an economic and ethical endeavor, offering a means to keep Sri Lanka's artistic legacy alive. So the research began with the identification of where to lead this study to, and started with the research problem that have identified regarding the study of how the adaptation of Sri Lankan traditional design motifs in contemporary interior surfaces design can be identified by recognizing their adaptation perceptions of the designers. And the questions follows as here on the motif adaptation and their designers' perceptions. What are the traditional motifs that are used in the interior surface designs, and how these traditional motifs are adapted in contemporary surface designs, and what are the perceptions of the adaptations regarding the integration of traditional motifs in different interior surface designs. The objectives of this research are threefold. First, to explore what traditional motifs are adapted in interior design. This aims to understand the historical and cultural design elements that have enduring relevance in Sri Lankan design and aesthetics. The second, how these motifs are adapted into contemporary interior surface designs. By this, the research intends to reveal the innovative approaches to design, fostering a balance between tradition and modernity that reflect the unique spirit of contemporary in Sri Lanka. Finally, to identify the perceptions and their influence for these adaptations to interior surfaces, it aims to uncover insights that can inform the design process and contribute to the creation of spaces that resonate with the community. So the research follows this structured plan. From the planning, the literature review provided historical content and examples of cultural preservation in design, case studies, analyzed adaptations of traditional motifs in selected locations. Data collection involved observing and interviewing designers to understand their approaches, and then the analysis was conducted considering all the above findings, and finally the findings were synthesized to propose insights and recommendations for future practices. The literature review was the primary source of knowledge in starting the study. That was aimed to gather information on the types of traditional motifs, not only in Sri Lankan context, but also in other countries as well, focusing on Asian and African contexts, as they show advanced but similar elements and craftsmanship comparatively. So the adopted approach was the qualitative approach, using observations, narrative interviews, and archival studies to illustrate the diverse adaptations of motifs. I focused on 3 case studies representing residential, industrial, and commercial contexts. And the location selections for the research was done categorizing according to the building type, residential, industrial, and commercial, in order to comparatively analyze the use of traditional motifs in different surfaces in their interiors. So these upcoming few slides have a small summary of how the analysis process was conducted, with detailing each motif that was used in the locations. The first case study was Bawa House. The Jeffrey Bawa's residence is a hallmark of architectural excellence. Here, divine and animal motifs like sunbirds and peacocks are subtly integrated into a wall art, textiles, and carved wood doors, balancing cultural symbolism with modern design aesthetics. And the second case study was Cinnamon Bentota Beach Hotel. In this hospitality space, vibrant batik murals, sculptures, and wall art inspired by flora, fauna, and mythical animals like the Bayerunda Pakshiya, very traditional Sinhalese arts, enhance the interiors. These motifs celebrate Sri Lanka's heritage while catering to a global audience. And the third case study was Spa Ceylon boutiques. At Spa Ceylon, digital tools are used to adapt bird and floral motifs into light boxes, wall decors, and carvings. The designs are vibrant, unlike the very first one, and modern, and aligned with their branding, like creating a unique identity while preserving traditional influences. Considering how the process was conducted in this research, it was under these selected categories on data collection. First of the motifs that were identified in the locations, and then about the perceptions. Motif analysis was considered under these given 7 factors, and the designer's perception was considered under the selected 8 factors to analyze the findings and comparatively present the similarities and differences on how the adaptation process was conducted accordingly, and in order to provide their own identities with maximum visual impact. And here only I have provided the considered factors, and with these factors I have analyzed these 3 case studies that I have selected. So the findings reveal that materials like wood, batik, acrylic, and digital prints are used to adapt motifs. Techniques include digital graphic design for precision and 3D textures for depth, ensuring the motifs resonate in contemporary context. And designers view traditional motifs as more than just decorations, as they seen as cultural storytellers that connects the past with the present by blending traditional aesthetics with modern architecture. Designers create spaces that are both meaningful and innovate. Then the integration of these two also enhances marketability. For instance, Sparta Ceylon attracts global customers by offering cultural rich interiors. Similarly, Cinnamon Benthode Beach uses motifs to create a luxurious yet authentic Sri Lankan experience. In essence, the adaptation of Sri Lankan traditional motifs in contemporary interior surface design is a narrative of heritage preservation, is the artistic evolution, and cultural storytelling. Heritage preservation emphasizes storytelling and cultural identity. Modern adaptation leverage technology to blend tradition with contemporary elements, and that combinations directed to market impact highlight how these design boosts global appeal and promote cultural tourism. Successful adaptation of motifs enhances cultural identity, aesthetic and functional integration in contemporary design, and emphasizes the importance of storytelling through design. So it is a dynamic bridge between the past and present, showcasing the relevance and significance of these motifs in shaping Sri Lanka's distinctive cultural identity within the domain of interior design. This research also emphasizes the potential impact on cultural tourism. By incorporating traditional motifs into contemporary design, we can enhance cultural tourism and contribute to local economies. Therefore, based on the research, these are the main recommendations that I am presenting. And so this concludes my presentation on how Sri Lankan motifs can inspire contemporary interior surface design, and thank you for your kind attention.
Sri Lankan tradition and motives. It's our culture, it's our heritage, it's our nation, and yes, we are really proud of as Sri Lankans. Thank you very much. Ms. Tilakaratna, it's a great presentation. Yes, we are moving to the last bit of the 7th session. So I cordially invite all the distinguished presenters. 3 presenters are here. One person, Ms. Pereira, she's joining us
to apply this specific strategy, yes, of course it's applicable, but we have to dive deep into the dynamics of each and every subject. There are specific requirements when, if we are, for example, if we apply that to mathematics, there's a specific way on how students acquire knowledge about division, maybe subtraction, the basic things of mathematics or else science. So based on the subject scope, we will be able to apply the same mechanism to other languages as well. So yes, to that question, that's a yes, it's applicable.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Pereira. So I would like to move to the second topic, exploring the use of feathers in traditional handloom. So audience, please raise few questions from the author.
Hi, so it was a really interesting research. So what are the important or interesting characteristics and also physical properties that you have observed during your research? And also speaking industry-wise, like how would you see future regarding like feather in handlooms? So like what's your insight on that?
Hello. Okay. Right. Thank you for your question. And as I mentioned in the presentation also, so this type of handloom that was developed using the fur trims, it's very lightweight in comparison to the fur fabrics which are there already in the market. And it's quite breathable because of the cotton fibers that are used to compose the handloom. So I would say that is the major difference in composition when it comes. And also it's, I would say, more sustainable because of the use of the feathers from the poultry industry. And going forward with this handloom innovation or attempt of an innovation, I would say it will be difficult because not all artisans are open-minded or are willing to explore in these manners because at the end of the day we need to also respect their knowledge and wisdom that they have. So a collaborative practice with the handloom people handloom artisans need to be achieved in order to keep that respect for both parties and create innovation for the new generations.
Thank you, Shanit, your answer. And I would like to move to the third presenter. The topic is identification of the key considerations to design assistive tools for blind lottery sellers in Sri Lanka. Please raise few questions from the audience.
Hi, a really interesting research. So my question is, were there any ethical challenges in conducting the study?
Yeah, actually, yes. There are several ethical challenges posed. It will be yeah, of course, yes. There were some several ethical challenges when conducting interviews, because it was kind of a very sensitive topic, and I have to meet them and conducted interviews with them. So first of all, I did meet them and explain what I am going to do, and then they were okay to talk with me at what I managed to use my language and my questions without harm them and without hard feelings to them. And also I kept their personal details confidentially with me. Yes.
Thank you, Manav Singh, for your response. And we are moving to the last presenter, Sri Lankan traditional motifs in contemporary interior surface design, adaptation and perception. Ms. Tilakaratne is here. I think the audience, you have some questions. Please.
I have a question to ask from the second presenter. Because as a designers, we always have to sometimes work with the craft persons. So if you can share your experience working with the craft person is very important, because it's really very special relationship. Like once you explain, it's very friendly relationship. And how did you grab his techniques? How did you manage the relationship to take out his talent to take out your design? To just explain. I think it's important for all of us.
Thank you for the question. And I think it's a simple answer actually, to just treat the artisans like another human being. Because I think often as designers, we think of artisans as a form of product or machinery, which we are trying to deviate from, and we are trying to reach that human ground again. So I would, so for example, for this practice, if I were to not conduct any research by myself and reach out to artisans and tell them I need a fur textile to be developed through handloom, they would be reluctant to practice it. But the practice of me trying to understand the handloom process and then also talking and making conversation with the handloom artisan to identify what they love to do. They have started the artisanal craft because they have a calling for it, and they're continuing it because maybe they want to make a living out of it. So it's important to understand what their talents in. And for me, I will refer to him as Albert Uncle again. He was very interested in changing the weft to create these intricate designs or different types of textiles in handloom. So I identified that that need he had, because all he was doing was creating saris or bed sheets for commercial use. He was just being given orders to do, and he had lost the love that he had for the craft. So it's important for us to identify where they come from and work on each other's skills rather than to force the skills to come out.
Thank you, Shanit, your very expressive answer. I would like to move again to the last one, the Sri Lankan traditional motifs in contemporary interior surface design, adaptation and perception. Audience, this is for your chance. Please raise. This is the last presenter of the 7th session. That's
so how do you think the technology should support in this adaptation?
You mean thank you for the question. You mean the technology,
Yep.
how can be,
Yep.
the technology can be integrated into the designs. So as for the 3 case studies I have mentioned in the presentation, the first 2 locations were like they were using like traditional methods to present their arts, and although it can be identified as modern interior architectural building. Moving on to the third case study, Sparsilon Boutiques, they were using technological advances to promote their brand identity and also the cultural identity of Sri Lanka. And as I mentioned in the presentation, now they are using 3D animations, and also they are mostly promoting their motif designs in light boxes. Like all their motif using is in digital format. So so that can be identified kind of an increasement in using traditional motifs in contemporary practice. So like that they can be used, and that is how the practice can be technologically advanced and be used in future design practices as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilakaratna. I think it's the next step for you all, just to take this for the technology and crafts, how you're going to merge and do you can do the more research under that. Thank you very much for the incredible 4 presenters, one in online. And we are just moving to the last bit of the 7th session. That's the awarding the certificates. So I would like to invite Mr. Praneeth to take the stage.
Okay, for the presentations, we will hand over the certificates. The first certificate set, the certificates are for the author and also for the co-author, H. Pereira. We will be sending you the certificates. And then WDJN Shanith. The next certificate goes to MDRN Manav Singh. The next certificate goes to AB Tilakaratna. With that, thank you very much, Dr. Aisha, for being with us in the team. And we will stop for the lunch. Thank you very much for being with us in these sessions. We will meet again exactly on 2 p.m. We have a lot of interesting sessions coming up. So 2 p.m. we will start the session number 8 conducted by Dr. Sumantri Samarvikrama and Ms. Chaturangidi Silva. So see you after the lunch break. Thank you very much.